Hello everyone, welcome to SplitSecond. My name is Sequeira and I'll be taking you through today's match. Before starting, we at SplitSecond want to thank everyone for your constant support and suggestions on all social media. You can continue to support us by sharing and liking this video, subscribing if you haven't yet, or by becoming a patron. We'd also like to remind you guys to try and support your local game store by buying MTG products there. Help keep your stores alive. Finally, while the current global situation continues, we will be providing everyone with high-quality digital gameplay rather than paper magic. This week, we're bringing you high-power monocolor commanders. I'm piloting Selvala Brostorm by ASM, Two-Hand Touch, and frozeninfate. Luís with Ragnarok and Mervius' k-rrik Black Hole Sun. David with Goomba 666 God-Eternal Kefnet. And finally, Baal with G-Toast99 and insertcleverphrasehere's Godo. Let's check our starting hands. This week I won the first roll and I'm starting. That's as much luck as I'm going to get because I had to mulligan down to 5 cards. I keep 3 Snow Forests so I can actually cast Selvala, Return of the Wild Speaker to try and get some card draw, and Woodland Bellower because he is 2 cards for 1 on a solid body. I sent Wirewood Symbiote and Great Oak Guardian to the bottom of my library since neither is relevant with my current hand. Luís mulligan once and most of his hand is mana or ramp. None of his lands provide color, Darksteel Citadel, Ancient Tomb and an Inventor's Fair, which could fetch him something like an Etherflux Reservoir if Luís finds the right cards along the way. Jeweled Amulet, Mox Opal and Green Monolith are excellent ramp for an early k-rrik, and Tainted Ether assures that at least the Selvala player is kept under tabs. David's hand also seems fairly solid. Opt and Ponder are good cantrips, while Fact or Fiction can help him dig through his deck further. Mana Crypt is great for something like a turn 2 Kefnet or Fact of Fiction, while Copy Artifact can either help him combo or push him further. Cursed Totem completely destroys my deck. Finally, David only has 1 island, but he has enough card draw to secure more land drop. Baal's hand is pretty versatile as well. He has an online Gemstone Caverns should he want to sacrifice another card from his hand. Mana Vault and Lotus Petal, along with the land drop for turn, Inventor's Fair, all allow Baal to play a turn 2 Godo if he wants to. Of the rest of his cards, both Goblin Cratermaker and Red Elemental Blast can be used for protection or interaction. Possibility Storm is sheer disruption. Time to get this show going. Before I start my turn, Baal has a pre-game action. He plays Gemstone Caverns, exiling a Possibility Storm in the process so it gains a luck counter. This makes me feel like I'm even more behind as I simply play a Snow-Covered Forest and pass. Luís plays a Mox Opal. He follows it up with a Jeweled Amulet and finally an Ancient Tomb. He casts Green Monolith, losing 2 life and getting the Mox online, and then pays 6 life to cast a turn 1 k-rrik. What an intimidating start! He passes to David. David is somewhat on the same boat as me. He plays an island and casts Ponder, shuffling his library before drawing and letting Baal get the business. Baal plays an Inventor's Fair. He uses it to cast Mana Vault and also gets himself a Lotus Petal while he's at it. Fully ramped up, he passes to me. I play small and dream smaller, just a Snow-Covered Forest before passing once again. Luís also plays an Inventor's Fair. His board and Baal's are starting to look really similar. He attacks his fellow ramped up buddy because Baal plays Treasonous Ogre. Luís gains 2 life and passes. David plays a second island. He casts Mana Crypt before letting Baal go to his turn, making us suspicious of his intentions. Baal even mentions Fact or Fiction as a possibility, but who knows. On his turn, Baal casts a Thran Dynamo just for that extra ramp. He then gets a Goblin Cratermaker ready to deal some damage. He ponders using the floating mana to kill k-rrik, but a black instant spell could trigger Luís's commander, making it a 3/3. He also wanted to have some protection against a potential Collector Roof from my side, although this list does not play it because 2 of the deck's paths to winning are artifacts. He then lets me play. It's turn 3 and I finally cast my first spell after playing a 3rd Snow Forest. Here's Selvala. Unfortunately, it's not like she can do much right now. Luís uses my end step to untap his Monolith. On his upkeep, Luís gains 1 life to the Inventor's Fair. He then plays a Darksteel Citadel and we're just wondering if he accidentally picked up a colorless deck instead of mono black. He proves us wrong by casting a Tainted Ether, losing 4 life in the process. That's a bummer for the mono green player though. k-rrik triggers, becoming slightly stronger. Baal considers responding, but still isn't sure whether Luís has a black instant at hand, so he lets it pass. Luís attacks Baal once more before going to his end step. David casts Factor Fiction, confirming Baal's suspicions. He reveals 2 lands, a Flusterstorm, a Chrome Mox, and a Delay, choosing Baal to separate the piles. The Delay gets paired up with Chrome Mox, while the 2 islands are put together with Flusterstorm. The idea is to make sure that Chrome Mox is in the block with the least amount of cards to reduce its usability, while Flusterstorm gets paired with a flood of lands. David picks the bigger pile. This suggests he had no more islands in his hand. On his upkeep, David wins the Crypt roll. He plays an island and casts k-rrik before passing to Baal's ramped up turn. On Baal's upkeep, he gains 1 life to the Inventor's Fair trigger, only to immediately lose it to the Mana Vault trigger during his draw step. He then casts a Goblin Matron, triggering the Tainted Ether. He sacrifices the Matron and then searches his library for a Dockside Extortionist since, well, Luís was kind enough to play a billion artifacts. Baal sacrifices his Lotus Petal and uses the mana he has floating to cast the Extortionist. David responds and swaps a total of 6 cards in his hand, looking for a response. He doesn't find any, which doesn't bode well for us. This means that Baal would get 7 treasures. But we did miss the Darksteel Citadel during the count, so he only piled 6, which is okay because it did not affect the game's outcome. Baal sacrifices the Dockside to the Ether Void trigger. He then attacks Luís with his Crater Maker just to take some Phyrexian mana out of him before passing to me. It's my turn and I play a Snow-Covered Forest. I cast a Green Sun Zenith for 2 mana, which everyone expects will be a Collector Oof. Like I said, this list doesn't run the Oof, and it would have died to the Crater Maker even if it did. I was not keen on sacrificing a forest for nothing. Thus, I get a Sheltering Ancient, fully committed to just doing my thing and not participating in the huge resource war around me. Green Sun Zenith is shuffled back into my library, and I sacrifice a tapped forest to the Tainted Ether. I also draw a card from Selvala. With my best turn yet resolved, I pass to Luís's turn. Luís gains another life from the Inventor's Fair. He plays a basic swamp, and we all grab our pearls at the sight of a basic land in that deck. He goes to combat and attacks Baal with his commander yet again, piling up some more damage. He then lets David get to his turn. David draws a familiar card. He plays an island and he does not have a way to shuffle the top of his library, however, so he instead chooses to cast Counterbalance. Baal ponders if he should use the Red Elemental Blast, but he figured that David probably isn't running any 6 CMC spells, including extra turns, which means he cannot counter Godo with the Counterbalance. The Red Elemental Blast is not cast. David follows this enchantment with his own Grim Monolith. We all hope to be fully ready for Baal's next turn. Once more, Baal goes up and down in life and top decks a Panharmonicon. Figuring David's 4 CMC spells in his deck would be Factor Fiction and not many others, he casts it. David already knows the top 5 cards of his library, and neither the top 1 nor the cards in his hand cost 4 mana for him to use k-rrik and Counterbalance to stop Baal. He does not reveal any card. Baal casts his Godo. I respond by activating Selvala for 5 mana and casting Return of the Wildspeaker to draw 5 cards. The deck does not have Force of Vigor, however, so this didn't really help us out. Once Godo enters the battlefield, it triggers twice due to Panharmonicon, while the Tainted Ether trigger goes to the top of the stack. It resolves first, and Baal sacrifices his Inventor's Fair. Then, with the first Godo trigger, Baal searches his library for the Hammer of Nazan. It attaches itself to Godo. For the second trigger, he gets the Helm of the Host, also getting attached because of the hammer. Baal moves to combat in order to win. The Helm triggers and we have no responses. He puts a non-legendary Godo into play with haste, triggering the Tainted Ether and forcing Baal to sacrifice his Crater Maker. Once that's done, the new Godo attacks, triggering a new combat. Now, all Baal has to do is sacrifice every old Godo so that the new one gets to attack, thus entering infinite combats and killing us with mono-red violence. This game showed us a bit of what k-rrik and Godo can do, but it was pretty short. So, we decided to try a new game. We shuffle up and get ready to play. Baal is starting this time around. He has the Gemstone Caverns, but he won't enter the battlefield like last game. Luckily, he has a Mox Diamond to achieve the same result. His hand doesn't have any interaction apart from Mox Salvage, but it guarantees a turn 2 uncounterable Godo thanks to Cavern of Souls and Mana Vault. He also has 2 basic mountains. My mulligan streak continues into the second game. I go down to 6 cards. I have 3 snow-covered forests and a mana crypt, all of which I keep in case someone blows the crypt up. I also have a potential turn 1 survival of the fittest to filter my creatures and speed up a potential win. Finally, I keep Regal Force just because I can use the survival to turn it into a more relevant creature. Return of the Wild Speaker is sent to the bottom of my library. Luís also had to mulligan down to 5. Once again, his hand is mostly ramp and lands, 3 swamps and an ancient tomb, plus Sol Ring for a turn 2 crit. Reanimate is an excellent tool in Luís's arsenal and more permanent than Necromancy, so he chooses to keep it. One of the swamps and the Necromancy are sent to the bottom of his library. David has a pretty low cost at hand with a lot of ramp, once again keeping a 1-lander. Sol Ring, Mox Opal, and Sapphire Medallion can all be cast on his first turn for a turn 2 Kefnet. Grafdigger's Cage looks like a good way to interact with me and Luís. Negate is a solid counterspell, while Brainstorm, along with a potential fetch to better shape David's hand, could help him dig out and prepare for relevant Kefnet turns. Brainstorm is also a combo piece if he manages to get an extra turn spell, Kefnet, and an Isochron Scepter. Time for round 2. Baal starts this time around. He plays a Mox Diamond and discards Gemstone Caverns, which, in a way, is Deja Vu. Reverse Deja Vu? He plays a basic mountain, followed by a mana vault before passing to me. On my turn, I get a nice draw and decide to cast it after playing a Snow Forest and a Mana Crypt. My Sylvan Library hits play and the rest of the table isn't incredibly happy about it. I let Luís get to showing us what he's got. Luís plays a Swamp and a Sol Ring. So far, we all have had fast mana. As for David, he also plays an island into a Sol Ring. Damn! Not only that, he also casts a Sapphire Medallion and tries to cast Mox Opal. At this point, Baal wants David to calm down for a bit. He casts Mox Salvage on the Medallion, since it can provide more value in different turns, unlike the Sol Ring. He does this so that David cannot use something like Delay on his Godo with his online Mox Opal. After this powerful first turn cycle, we go back to Baal's turn. Baal plays a Cavern of Souls naming Human and casts his Godo. Because he can't equip the Helm next turn, Baal chooses to protect his Warlord with the Hammer of Nazan, since killing him also means his next commander cast will get him an instantly equipable Helm of the Host. The hammer is attached to Godo, and Baal passes the turn fairly satisfied. On my upkeep, I lose a crypt roll. Unlucky. Then, I lose 4 life to the Sylvan Library to keep an extra draw. I simply play a basic force and cast Selvala, hoping she survives 1 turn cycle so I can try and do something with the rest of my hand. I pass to Luís. Luís plays an Ancient Tomb and, once again, loses 2 life plus 6 from the Phyrexian mana to cast his commander, k-rrik. Immediately after, he is casting a Demonic Tutor, losing 2 more life and triggering his commander while intimidating all of us. He pays an additional 2 life to cast Entomb for a Villis, triggering his commander yet again. Now, we're all pretty much sweating. Luís does exactly what we were afraid of and casts Reanimate by paying 2 more life, triggering k-rrik. This is some turn 2. Villis enters the battlefield and Luís loses 8 life to the Reanimate, drawing 8 additional cards. He does forget that Selvala could give him another draw. He passes, fully prepared to overrun us while discarding 3 swamps during the cleanup step. David plays a second island. He then shows Baal that maybe killing the Medallion hadn't been the right choice as he casts a Grafdigger's Cage. He passes to the Godo player. Baal loses 1 life to the Mana Vault. He goes to combat and ponders for a while, wondering if taking 5 life from Luís and giving him 5 cards while putting him at 13 life was worth it. Instead, he chooses to attack me and twice, so I can dig less with Sylvan Library. Had he chosen to attack Luís, we might have possibly forced him to lose a lot of life with me trying to combo next turn. However, I decide not to interfere simply because Baal seemed adamant that it was pointless to pressure Luís, thus reducing my options in the process. It's part of the game. After combat is done, Baal plays a basic mountain followed by an Arcane Signet and an ever-flowing Chalice kicked for 1. With that, I'm the one playing. I lose another crypt roll and I'm dangerously low on life. I play a Snow Forest and cast Hunted Troll, wondering who gets the fairies and deciding on David. I tap Selvala for 8 mana and cast Arbor Elf and Regal Force, fully tapping out. I end my turn half expecting Luís to win in the next one. Luís plays a Shizo. He generates 2 mana with the Ancient Tomb, losing 2 life and drawing 2 cards. He then pays 2 life and taps a Swamp and Sol Ring to cast a Grey Merchant of Asphodel, triggering his commander. Gary hits the board and he deals 8 damage to each of us, gaining Luís 24 life and putting me in reach for lethal combat damage, all with a single card. I for one am not too excited about this. Luís goes to combat, activating Chizo with k-rrik and drawing 2 cards from Village in the process. His commander gains Fear while Village soars overhead. They both deliver the final pummeling and I'm dead. Monogreen is out. David casts a Brainstorm during Luís's end step because they're in urgent need of answers. Going to his cleanup, Luís discards lands and reanimation spells since the cage has made them all useless. David uses his turn to cast a Personal Tutor. He finds a Merchant Scroll. He casts Up to draw it and uses it to search for a Cyclonic Rift. He then casts a Mana Vault. They just need to hold on for 1 turn cycle, so there's hope on the horizon. On his draw step, Baal's Mana Vault hits him once more. He plays a basic mountain. With only 1 card in hand, he figures he has a better chance at winning if it doesn't kill David's fairies, so he passes to Luís. On his upkeep, Luís casts Insidious Dreams, losing 2 life to k-rrik and triggering his commander. He discards 3 cards to search for 3 cards in his deck, and then he draws 2 cards from Village. He gets an Aetherflux Reservoir, a Duress, and a Spectre's Shriek. After this, Luís taps his Ancient Tomb to draw 2 cards. He pays 2 life to cast Duress, targeting David and drawing 2 more cards. k-rrik triggers and Luís discards David's Negate. He loses 2 more life and casts a Spectre's Shriek on Baal just in case he has artifact removal, and draws 2 more cards, and Baal responds and casts his recently drawn Deflecting Swat. However, since Luís is still the controller of the spell and it specifically only targets opponents, he has to choose David to reveal his hand, but chooses not to do anything. After drawing a lot of cards, we are sure that Luís is about to win. Paying 2 more mana, Luís casts Aetherflux Reservoir. He then pays 4 life to cast Leshrac Sigil, drawing 4 cards and gaining 5 life while triggering his commander. Now, Luís pays 2 more life to cast Cold Weak, sacrificing Village and preventing himself from being decked out through the casting and bouncing of Leshrac Sigil while he uses life with k-rrik. Luís gains 4 black mana and 6 life, so he can return the Sigil, recast it and win 7 life, and then repeat this while going life positive with each bouncing and recast. He shoots the Reservoir's Life Laser to take down his 2 remaining opponents, winning the game. Thanks for following us through this match, everyone. This week we managed not to have any Thassa's Oracle winning the game. We'd like to start the credits by thanking our current patrons, and especially Izanagi, Carneiro, Troy, Stefan, TJ Rapp, Mike Purr, and Ajimu, our stack breakers. If you too want to support us, you can do so by liking this video, subscribing, or becoming a patron yourself. If you want to go through other Commander adventures, click one of the videos on the right. If you want to talk with us about our games or other EDH related matters, join us for free on Discord. Come with us again next week for a new set of commanders and more decisive plays. See you then!